His supreme order of Rex is divided into sectoid arms. They fear and gesture with disdain as his complex eyes glistened under the artificial light of the room. They claim to lack determination, their race knowing only terror when facing humans. Our fleets might turn them to ash in a single cycle, a whisper of the Council's agreement echoed. Not everyone was persuaded, according to Counselor Y. Rexer. A gigantic hand, raised in a rhythmic manner by a monstrous creature with translucent skin through which veins were visible, stirred unease. Their colonies had decimated the human race, and their allies had gone silent. "Don't give up," the creature rumbled, its deep voice echoing cautiously. Rex's mandibles clattered in displeasure, out of character for their usual tolerance. "They are scavengers with little resistance," Rex muttered. As a shadow passed over the empty exhibit, the crowd fell silent. Humanity had put a stop to their charade by beheading their leadership. Unfamiliar names whispered by anxious delegates reverberated through the chamber until a piercing voice asked, "What are the rumors about the Boogeyman?" The assassin. Rex leaned forward, his eyes narrowing in mythical quiet. "Created to evoke terror," he began, "even when their legends are hollow." But outside, reality emerged in the depths of space, testing their arrogance. The soft leather of Ronald Alexander's gloves creaked slightly as he adjusted them. In the shadowy interior of the Phantom, a stealth ship armed with classified Earth technology, he fastened them over cold hands. The mission briefing scrolled across a holographic panel, its glow casting harsh shadows over his scarred face, each one a testament to survival in a galaxy that had tried and failed to eradicate him. Alpha, the ship's onboard AI, spoke in a calm, almost serene voice. "Your objective is Grony. Its removal will destabilize critical supply lines to the Empire's fleets. Act with prudence." Ronald smirked coldly. "Prudence is meaningless when you're me." He retrieved a sleek, matte black firearm from the wall mount, the weapon humming softly as it synchronized with his biometrics. "You've been called an intergalactic terrorist, Ronald," Alpha warned, a rare pause in its usual flow. "The Council is stepping up efforts to hunt you down." Ronald remained silent, his gaze flicking to a small photo of a woman and child tucked in the corner of the console. His face darkened. "It's already over, Alpha. They just don't know it yet." As the ship entered Grony's orbit, its cloaking systems shimmered faintly, transforming it into a ghost in space. Ronald secured his advanced infiltration suit, its adaptive camouflage blending seamlessly into the rocky terrain below. The fortress loomed ahead, a stronghold of sharp stone and alien metal perched on a jagged cliff. Patrols of reptilian guards moved with strict precision, their reflective armor glinting in the dim, polluted light of Grony's skies. Alpha's voice whispered in his ear. 30 hostiles on the ground level. Minimal automated defenses, but the upper chambers are heavily guarded. Ronald descended silently, his movements precise and calculated. The first guard fell without a sound, his body dragged into the shadows. The second guard barely had time to react before Ronald's blade sliced through the armor's gap, leaving only silence in his wake. Inside the fortress, sterile, cold corridors replaced the oppressive heat of the planet's surface. War trophies and banners lined the walls, somber reminders of the Empire's victories. Ronald didn't stop to admire them. Finally, he reached the central chamber. The doors slid open to reveal Commander Soren, a massive amphibious creature, suspended in a tank of bioluminescent liquid. Elite guards surrounded the room, their weapons trained on Ronald. "Monster, you don't know what you've unleashed," Ronald growled, his voice amplified through the room. "You're not the first to think you'll change anything," Soren hissed, his voice wet and guttural. "The Empire will crush your people." Ronald's blade slammed into the tank, shattering it with a loud crack. Bioluminescent liquid spilled onto the floor as Soren flailed, gasping for air. Without hesitation, Ronald drove his blade into the creature's chest, silencing him for good. As alarms blared throughout the fortress, Ronald inserted a data chip into the control console. Alpha's voice crackled to life. The files contained critical intel, supply routes, troop movements. This could give Earth a fighting chance. Good, Ronald muttered. The ship hovered just outside the fortress as reinforcements closed in. Ronald leapt onto the ramp, the hatch sealing shut behind him. "Mission accomplished," he said, sliding the data chip into a receptacle. "What's next?" Alpha asked, its tone almost wary. Ronald's gaze hardened. "Another target, another fortress. They'll keep coming, but so will I." The Phantom disappeared into the void, leaving only shadows and legends behind. As Ronald examined the tactical display, his eyes narrowed. The frigates were closing in, and smaller fighter drones were pouring from their hangars, their configurations designed for quick interception. Ronald murmured, "Deadly precision, aimed at cornering the Phantom." The ship's engines roared as it deviated off its planned course, banking hard to the left and skimming dangerously close to an asteroid field up ahead. "But I'm quicker," he thought. The initial blast struck the asteroid closest to him, sending pieces of rock hurtling into space. Ronald's ship glided effortlessly over the wreckage, his reflexes honed by years of flying under fire. Plasma bolts illuminated the darkness around him, while Alpha's voice sliced through the tension, guiding him. Miniature drones, ejected by the Phantom as countermeasures, scattered in a complex pattern. Each emitted a signature identical to the ship's, creating a network of fictitious targets. Ronald shut down his engines temporarily, allowing inertia to carry the ship forward. The Phantom's cloaking field shimmered as it became invisible, slipping silently into the shadow of a massive asteroid. Leaning against the stony surface, Ronald spoke in a calm, low voice. "Status?" Alpha responded. "They're scanning, but their grid is ineffective. They don't know you like I do." Ronald's lips curved into a grim smile. He powered down every non-essential system, letting the ship plunge into a near-dead state. Outside, the fighters swarmed like predators, scanning the asteroid. Ronald waited, his breathing controlled, his heartbeat steady. When one of the fighters got too close, a faint distortion rippled across the asteroid. Ronald's fingers flicked across the controls, triggering the ship's pulse weapon. With surgical precision, a single silent shot struck the drone's power core, causing it to explode. In a dazzling flash, the surviving fighters scattered like broken glass, trying to regroup. But Ronald didn't wait. He reignited the Phantom's engines, causing them to howl as the ship blasted out of its hiding place. Plasma fire streaked across the void as the pursuing ships scrambled to adjust. "They're recalibrating," Alpha noted. Ronald's eyes shifted to the navigation display, which highlighted the chaotic asteroid field ahead. Despite the risk of tumbling rocks and unpredictable gravitational forces, he didn't hesitate. The Phantom tilted abruptly, plunging deeper into the field. The frigates struggled to follow, their plasma blasts bouncing harmlessly off asteroids. Larger ships became bottlenecked in the narrow crevices, forcing their pilots to halt their pursuit. Alpha warned, "They're attempting to flank you." Ronald adjusted course, steering toward a massive asteroid with a hollowed-out core. Using magnetic mines as a diversion, he fired behind him, detonating them at the perfect moment. The blasts destroyed 3 fighters in a fiery explosion, scattering debris like ash. As the remaining ships recalculated their strategy, Ronald dove into the hollow asteroid. The Phantom skimmed its jagged walls, navigating the tunnel's treacherous interior, with precise movements. Emerging on the other side, he found himself in a debris field filled with wreckage from past battles. "High ionized particle charge detected," Alpha noted. "Your sensors will be impaired." Ronald's jaw tightened. "I won't let them corner me." The pursuing ships hesitated at the edge of the debris field, their systems struggling to adjust to the interference. Ronald seized the opportunity, firing a focused blast at a nearby wreck. The resulting explosion sent shock waves rippling through the field, dislodging fragments of metal and rock. Chaos ensued as debris struck the pursuing ships, disabling their shields. The frigates fell back, unwilling to risk further losses. Ronald exhaled softly, his muscles relaxing as the Phantom emerged from the field. The alarms ceased, and the ship's systems stabilized. Ronald leaned back in his seat, his voice steady. "Normal status?" "Confirmed," Alpha replied. "No signs of reinforcements." Ronald stared into the void, the weight of the mission heavy on his mind. Saurian was dead, but the Empire's resources were vast, and the war was far from over. "Set course for the next rendezvous," he said, his tone resolute. As the Phantom entered hyperspace, the distant light of Earth's sun flickered on the horizon. Ronald Alexander was far from done. Though the Empire had declared war on humanity, humanity had already responded, and Ronald was ready to deliver. The massive Nexus Bastion loomed ahead, a fortress of impenetrable defenses and a command hub for the Empire. Ronald sat in the Phantom's cockpit, his gaze icy. "Intel confirms Varen is inside," Alpha stated. Ronald's fingers tightened on the controls. "What about the Bastion's defenses?" "Shields are nearly unbreakable," Alpha said. "But I've identified a weakness, a small maintenance hatch leading to the central core." Ronald nodded. "That's all I need." The Phantom slipped undetected into the station's blind spot. Ronald rose from his seat, fastening his sidearm and combat blade to his suit. The adaptive material of his armor blended seamlessly with the shadows as he prepared to infiltrate. "Leave the distractions to me," Alpha assured him. "You'll have 20 minutes before they notice." "More than enough," Ronald replied. He entered the station through the maintenance hatch, navigating dimly lit corridors lined with pulsating conduits. Each step was deliberate, each movement silent.